Every single day, most of us tap into this incredible world of speed and precision, but it's a world we almost never see. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to follow the journey that starts with a simple click and somehow ends with a package right on your front door.
Think about it. You've done this 1,000 times, right? You find that thing you want, you drop it in the cart, and then one final click. It's yours. But in that split second, what actually happens? What giant invisible machine just roared to life to get that box to you, sometimes in less than a day? Well, let's find out.
Okay, first things first. Get rid of any old image you have of a dusty, dark storeroom. That's not what we're talking about. The modern warehouse is a buzzing, high-tech nerve center. It's really the heart of all e-commerce, a place where data, robots, and good old-fashioned human ingenuity come together to pull off a logistical miracle day in and day out.
To really get this, we've got to go inside the engine room. This is the place where all those digital promises you see on a website become physical, tangible reality. It is a very, very carefully choreographed dance, and believe me, a single misstep can throw the whole thing off.
Now, on the surface, this process looks pretty straightforward. First, products are received from all the different suppliers. Then they get sorted and put away, not just randomly, but in locations chosen by an algorithm for maximum speed. The moment you click buy, your order triggers a pick, either by a person or increasingly a robot. That item gets packed up securely and finally, it's shipped. At a place like Amazon, this entire sequence can happen so fast it'll make your head spin.
But here's the thing. These places are not just giant storage closets. No way. They are centers of real value. They can do special labeling or create custom gift packages. They do something called kitting, which is just bundling different products together to make a new one, like a gift basket. They run quality checks, and this one's huge. They handle the entire complicated world of reverse logistics. You know what happens to that sweater when you decide you don't actually like the color and send it back?
So all of this whole dance of receiving and sorting and shipping, it all revolves around one central, massive challenge: inventory. See, managing what you have on hand is this delicate, incredibly high-stakes balancing act. It's a fundamental trade-off every single company has to make between cost and keeping you, the customer, happy. So what is inventory really? Well, if we're going to put on our professor hats for a second, it's all the stuff a company holds. That means the raw materials to make things, the partially finished products, and the final goods ready to sell. It's all held to act as a buffer, a cushion between the unpredictable world of supply and the just as unpredictable world of what customers want to buy. You could call it the just-in-case pile of the business world.
And this is the fundamental problem, the dilemma every company faces. If you hold too much inventory, your cash is literally tied up in boxes sitting on a shelf. You're paying to store it, and you're running the risk that it'll go bad or out of style. But if you hold too little, well, you get that dreaded out-of-stock message. You lose the sale, you look unreliable, and you've just created a very unhappy customer who might just go to your competitor next time. It's a total razor's edge.
And what's fascinating is how these big strategic decisions you make about inventory directly shape the physical warehouse. For example, if you sell a huge variety of products, you need a really complex layout to keep everything organized. If you use a just-in-time model, your warehouse needs to be built for pure speed, not long-term storage. If you have huge seasonal spikes, you need flexible space and workers. The strategy you choose literally dictates the building's design.
Okay, so this all sounds great on paper, right? Perfectly efficient, humming along. But what happens when the whole system just breaks? When that smooth journey from click to door hits a massive, catastrophic roadblock? Well, for that, let's look at a bit of a cautionary tale.
I want you to think about this for a second. It's a real paradox. It sounds like one of those riddles from business school. How is it possible for a company's warehouses to be jam-packed, overflowing with products, while at the same time, its customers walk into stores and find completely bare shelves? It seems impossible, but it actually happened. Well, this exact thing happened to Target during their, let's call it, infamous expansion into Canada. As analysts from places like Fortune magazine later figured out, a massive piece of this spectacular failure came down to the very things we're talking about today, a complete and total breakdown between their inventory and their warehouses.
So let's do a little post-mortem here. What exactly went wrong? It really boils down to 3 key failures. First, the data was just bad. What the computer system thought was in the warehouse did not match what was physically sitting on the shelves. Second, their new software systems weren't talking to each other correctly. And the result of all that? A total lack of real-time visibility. They were flying blind. They couldn't see where their products were, which led to those empty store shelves and, eventually, to them pulling out of the country entirely.
It's a brutal lesson in why getting this stuff right is so critical.
So how do the best companies on the planet make sure that never happens to them? Well, it's simple. They measure, relentlessly. They keep a very strict scorecard for their operations, making sure that the data in the system is a perfect mirror of the reality on the warehouse floor.
Let's look at a few of the big ones, what we call key performance indicators, or KPIs. Inventory turnover tells you how fast you're selling through your stuff. It's a measure of efficiency. Fill rate is all about customer service. What percentage of the time did you have an item when a customer wanted to buy it? And order accuracy, well, that's pretty simple. Did the customer get exactly what they paid for with no mistakes? Tracking these numbers is what separates the world-class operations from the ones that are destined to fail.
So, at the end of the day, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. When all these pieces, the physical warehouse, the inventory strategy, and the data systems are all working together in perfect harmony, the results are incredibly powerful. You get shorter delivery times, you prevent those sales-killing stockouts, and you keep your costs under control. That, right there, is the formula for winning.
And that brings us to one last question, and it's a big one I want you to think about. In this age of e-commerce, where the package that shows up at your door is often the main way you interact with a brand, is it possible that this invisible high-tech nerve center, the warehouse, has actually become the most important storefront a company has? Something to think about.